going on, so our caucus lasted a while. Thank you for waiting. And I want to thank Senators Schatz and Heinrich and Smith for joining us. Well, this week, as Republicans continue to jam through the big, ugly betrayal, we're continuing to sound the alarm on the devastating impacts of this bill. It doesn't just gut Medicaid, it dismantles the ACA, and we've just found it even forces cuts in Medicare. Medicare, so important to so many people, almost sacred, and it cuts that too. In New York, couples covered through the ACA would pay almost $3,000 more a year. People hate it when their health insurance goes up, and it's going up a lot because of the big, ugly betrayal. Private insurance will also go up. You say, well, I don't have Medicare, I don't have Medicaid, I'm safe. Private insurance is going up as well. All of this to pay for tax cuts to billionaires. It's no secret that this awful bill would rip away health care from 16 million Americans, steal food from children, balloon the debt, but it would also kill millions of jobs and skyrocket costs. And this week, that's what we are focusing on. It's not just health care costs that would go through the roof. Energy costs will be soaring. American households will pay up to $32 billion more for their energy. Starting next year, Americans will see a 10% increase in electricity prices, so will small businesses. In the Republican complete and total fealty to big oil and gas, they're hell-bent on destroying America's clean energy economy. It makes no sense. Clean energy is the cheapest way to produce new energy. The cheapest way is solar. It's the quickest, it's the cheapest. So why are they cutting it? Particularly when our country needs more energy because of the AI needs and so many other needs? I'll tell you why. Because there are a bunch of right-wing fossil fuel ideologues who hate all clean energy because they know it's the future, because they know it's cheaper, because they know it's the quickest to build. But they somehow have infiltrated the Trump administration, and they're calling the shots. Republicans in their rampage against climate are hurting American families. Republicans who claim to fight for jobs and families back home should oppose any proposal to do this. Look what we're talking about here, a bill so awful, so ill-conceived that House Republicans had to pass it in the dead of night. But now that Americans are finally learning what's in it, they have to go back again to fix it. Senate Democrats are committed to fighting this bill every way we can. That's why in the last few weeks we have doggedly made the argument that the House Republican bill doesn't meet the requirements for privilege in the Senate. This is the first argument in reconciliation, privilege. It has to fit the committees. And if it doesn't, they've got to go change it. Well, we made the argument that the House Republican bill doesn't meet the requirements for privilege, and Senate Republicans were forced to concede it's true. So now the House is going to have to vote again on a rule to change the bill, which gives some of those Republicans who say they hated the bill, some of those Republicans who say they didn't know what was in the bill, some of those Republicans who sent a letter to the Senate saying change the bill, a chance to do it. It's a do-over, a chance to stand up and vote for their constituents. As you know, some House Republicans expressed regret for the vote, as I said. They didn't understand what they were voting for, especially the clean energy changes were done in the dark of night. And now they can show that their regrets are real or just hollow words. It's clear after actually reading the text and hearing from the public, some House Republicans are howling buyer remorse. So I say to the House Republicans, particularly those who signed the letter, but many others who have expressed discomfort and concern at the provisions, now's your next chance. You had a chance once, you failed. Here's a second chance. No more ducking. They have their vote. They should use it to protect their constituents from this horrible bill. And if Senate Republicans actually pass the legislation, it's not going to grow the economy. It's not going to help the middle class. It's not going to deliver for working families. It's all going to deliver tax breaks for the billionaires. Senator Schatz.
This bill is going to create shortages of food, create shortages for health care, and in particular, we want to emphasize the shortages in electricity that this is going to cause. This is a basic question of supply and demand. Energy demand in the U.S. is soaring for the first time in many, many decades. Gas turbines are stuck in years-long backlogs. There's more investment in clean energy than in fossil fuel projects, and yet Republicans are racing to kill those clean energy projects to come online. Set aside for the very moment we are in the question of fighting climate change. Whatever your view about energy policy, both parties ought to agree that we shouldn't intentionally create shortages. There will not be enough energy online in the next 3 to 5 years if they pass this bill. And the leader is exactly right. There is an unexpected opportunity for those House members who voted for something, I guess not knowing what was in it, and then writing a letter to us saying, could you please fix it? And my view is, sure, we'll fix it. But the thing is, you guys get to vote this week to establish in 3 dimensions that you actually disagree with eviscerating the clean energy tax credits. You just put that in writing. You had some deniability after you cast your vote to say, look, it was a big bill, it was a fast process, and we're just at the beginning of this. Would you please fix it? You guys get to fix this. You guys get to vote in rules, and then on the House floor to put your vote where your mouth is.
Thank you, Senator Schatz. Who's next? Senator Heinrich.
Thank you, Leader. As Senator Schatz said, the conundrum we're in with electricity right now is that we haven't been in this supply-demand space since air conditioners became a widely available technology. That was the last time we saw the kind of growth in demand that we're experiencing right now. On the supply side, the place we find ourselves in right now is one where if you want to order a combined cycle natural gas turbine, if you ordered it yesterday, you're going to get it in 2030 or 2031. If you want to build a new API 1000 nuclear generating station, as the President has said he does, it's going to take you 5 to 10 years to actually build that. If you want to do the geothermal stuff that's taking off in Utah and to some extent in New Mexico, that's scaling slow. It's going to be 5 to 10 years before that stuff is at scale. So if you look at this incredibly increased demand from artificial intelligence, from electrification, from the surge we've seen in manufacturing, and you look at the supply that's coming onto the grid in 2024 and what's coming on in 2025, well over 90% of that is actually renewables plus storage. And that's the case because it's the cheapest, fastest to permit and fastest to build. So if you start throttling back 90% of your supply at a time when demand is going through the roof, what's the impact of that? And I'm here to tell you the impact is electricity bills are going up. They are going up all across the country, and Republicans are going to own that. Because there is no world in which we throttle supply like they are doing right now, especially with this reconciliation bill, but in 5 or 10 other different ways as well, and you don't see those electric bills go through the roof. IRA tax credits are the biggest piece of that, but it's not the only one. They've basically eviscerated the agencies that finance or permit many of these things. They said they wanted to build nuclear. The only nuclear that's been built in the last 30 years is what we just saw happen in Georgia. And that happened because of the Loan Program Office, where they've lost half the staff and defunded it in the President's budget. If you want to produce oil and gas, you need somebody at the Bureau of Land Management who can actually pick up the phone about a permit. They have chased people out of the Bureau of Land Management. You add that to the kind of permitting abuse that we've seen with Empire Wind, a fully permitted multi-gigawatt project, and then you throw in some steel and aluminum tariffs just to make the what natural gas projects are in the books even more expensive. This is a perfect storm of higher electricity rates. And if they pass this reconciliation bill without changes, they're going to own every bit of it.
Now, Senator Smith.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. Thanks, everybody. So President Trump promised Americans that he would lower the cost of housing. But today, renting a home, buying a home is more expensive than ever. And the big, beautiful bill, so-called, is going to make that worse and not better. In this bill, deep-pocketed corporate landlords and private equity firms will be getting big tax breaks, while people who have worked hard and have saved up the money that they need to buy a home will find that a mortgage is higher and harder to afford. Just think about mortgage costs for a minute. The cost of a 30-year mortgage for a Minnesotan looking to buy a home would go up more than $18,000 because of the provisions in President Trump and the Republican tax bill. What's this about? The huge deficits in this bill are going to drive up the national debt, and that's going to drive up mortgage costs for everyone. Not only will mortgage rates go up, but Trump's budget would cut rental assistance by almost 40%. So for working people, this means folks that are working really hard and trying to hold it together, trying to afford their lives, are going to be hurt. There is something seriously wrong when the Republicans' bill subsidizes the very same private equity firms and big corporate investors that are buying at homes around the country and making it impossible for regular folks to compete to buy that starter home. But instead of unrigging the system so that it's fair for people, this big, beautiful bill makes it worse. It raises costs for middle-class people, not just on housing, but also on energy and utility bills and food, and regular Americans are going to be paying more, while big corporations and rich people get all the tax breaks. That's Trump and Republicans' big, beautiful bill, and it's wrong, and Americans do not like it.
Thank you, Tina. All right, I'm ready for some questions. Yes, down there.
Conservatives sent a memo to the Senate Republicans yesterday saying the big bill isn't doing down for the reign in activist judges. Do you have any response to that? And also, have you heard from the parliamentarian yet on the contempt?
Well, first, we had one victory in this area even before the bill started, because the Republican proposal that would not allow a court decision to be in effect nationwide was outrageous. We made arguments that we were going to make sure the parliamentarian knocked it down, and before it even got to the parliamentarian, they pulled it out. On this latest proposal, that would basically take away the ability of the courts to enforce the law by changing contempt, we are going to go before the parliamentarian, make a vigorous, strong argument against it. We think it does not meet the need. We think the birdbath will make it fail. Okay? Yes.
Thank you. Senator Fetterman has said that Democrats have lost the moral high ground by insufficiently condemning the LA riots. What's your reaction to that?
The bottom line is that violence in the riots is outrageous and should never happen, full stop. That's the bottom line, and anyone who commits violence or breaks the law should be fully prosecuted. Having said that, Donald Trump bringing American troops and American Marines in against American citizens is not only provocative, it's not only dangerous, it really threatens the bedrock of our democracy. Yes.
If Republicans fail to pass reconciliation in time by the X date and need to negotiate with you, what would you ask in exchange for that bill?
Not debating hypotheticals right now. Yes.
Will you be making an endorsement in the New York City mayor race?
I'm not going to make an endorsement.
Leader Schumer,
Yes.
Leader Schumer, there are going to be defense provisions in this reconciliation bill, and I understand how Democrats feel about the president sending in troops to Los Angeles. Would you try to put amendments into the Vote-A-Rama to try to
you're going
bring
to see
some of that back?
You're going to see a whole bunch of amendments on Vote-A-Rama dealing with all of these issues.
Here's your
Thank you,
alongside
everybody.
public opinion and